This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is I, the Kingpin, King of the Streets, along with Pierce Austin, the Aussie sensation. And here's
The
another
man
episode.
that's sweeping the nation, baby. Don't forget that one, Suntan Superman.
There you go, brother. Absolutely. Hey, man, right now we're going to do case number 74, the Ted Bundy murders. You know, Ted Bundy, one of the most, to me, one of the most, I can't say greatest, but one of the most infamous serial killers in United States history. I mean, I know there's H.H. Holmes, there's other killers out there, but he was the most intriguing serial killer in my eyes. I mean, the guy raped, kidnapped, and murdered over 30 women, but they allegedly said there were more, over like 100. This guy was the most charismatic and the most just very intelligent serial killer that people just couldn't suspect him doing something like this. So we're going to be talking about Ted Bundy and his killing spree from 1974 to 1978.
Absolutely, Angel. But before we get into it, guys, as you know, we are the Russo's Brand Crack Investigation Unit. We turn up, we talk about things, we break them down, we talk about tragedies usually from the world of professional wrestling. We're now stepping outside of that realm, and we're going to be wrestling with tragedies that have happened all over the world, not just inside the pro wrestling world, guys. But if you want to get an exclusive first look at our show, you need to head over to russosbrand.com, become a subscriber there, or head over to patreon.com/RussoTWC, where you can get our show and a bunch of amazing, great content from people like ODB, The Beautiful People, Stevie Richards, Ben Hameen, Big Vito LaGrasso, Disco Inferno, the man himself, Big Uncle Vinny Roo himself, Shane Douglas, and a list of many, many more, guys. So make sure you head over to russosbrand.com and patreon.com/RussoTWC to check out our shows. Also, guys, we just want to take a quick second, a quick pause for the cause to thank the sponsors that help us keep the lights on up in this bitch, because you know that on-air sign takes a lot of electricity at Angel's house, and we got to pay some respects to those sponsors. Don't you agree, Ange?
Absolutely, man. We definitely want to just give the shout out to our sponsors. I mean, I know last episode on episode 73, we didn't do so because out of respect for Daphne. So if you were wondering why we didn't plug our sponsors at that time, it's just that didn't seem appropriate to do for that segment. Just the people who was wondering why we didn't do it at that time. So now you can bring that up.
Absolutely. Take it away.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely check out definitely one of the greatest sports accessory companies out there. I mean, I definitely love them. They got a lot of headbands, arm sleeves, any sports accessories for rugby, football, soccer, or you call it football. You know, if you need it, they got it. Definitely check out their dirty boxers. I definitely love them, and they're very entertaining. And when you drop your pants at the doctor's office and he sees an elephant hanging from your from your groin, it definitely breaks the ice when you're getting a prostate exam. So definitely check out sleeves.com and use promo code MWA pod to get 10% off, and tell them the Kingpin sent you and Wrestling with Tragedy, because it is Kingpin approved.
Absolutely, guys. And while you're checking out stuff on the internet, make sure you head over to healthvape.com. Healthvape.com is your healthy vaping alternative, guys. All of their products are no nicotine, no harmful or addictive chemicals, and they are vitamin infused. So if you're like me and you're either a smoker or an ex-smoker, you're currently a vapor, you're a vape user person, someone who chucks up big clouds and looks like one of those douchebags, I am one of them. This is my step off vaping, is to go to Health Vape, and it's a healthy vaping alternative. And I'm waiting for my products to come in, and I'm really excited to be able to get those coming in soon, Angel. If you want to check out Health Vape, use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase, baby.
Absolutely, brother. It looked like you're kind of silent there.
Sorry, brother. Whoop.
You're fine.
I'm stuffing up banners and everything here. Yeah, so Angel, why don't you kick us off here? We're going to be talking about Ted Bundy.
The only reason I'm kicking it off because he's from Australia and he doesn't know anything about Australian serial killers fans, just letting you know. So
I do my research, bro. You know I am one of the most detailed people that you will ever find.
Uh, anyway, but anyway, we're gonna be talking about Ted Bundy, one of the infamous serial killers. Like I said, the only reason I find him intriguing because he was a very charismatic individual. He was an individual that was going to college to be an attorney. He even represented himself in court, which was against his attorney's wishes. Like, dude, don't do it. But he was so arrogant. He just felt like I could do this, and that's the reason why he kind of put the nail in his coffin because he was, he was a witness for himself. He was defending himself and against the wishes of his attorney. And, he, like I said, he killed over 30 women that they were able to document.
He confessed to 30. They only confirmed 20.
Yeah, they can only confirm 20, which he was convicted. But again, also when he spoke to his attorney, he admitted that it was probably around over 100 people that he killed undocumented.
Yeah, and we mentioned that it was between 74 and 78, which is a predominantly a majority of the killings. But when when police investigated and we investigated this case, there was actually murders that happened prior to 1974.
Yeah,
and we'll get into that. We're going to get into why, like, Ted Bundy, the man who became FBI's most wanted man in the 70s, when he attacked, murdered, raped 30 women across 7 states. The total number is not known.
Yeah.
But sorry, Angel.
No, I was just saying, what's the most interesting thing about Ted Bundy is because he had a relationship. He had a relationship with a female called Elizabeth Kendall, if I'm pronouncing it, Kendall, who was raised as a Mormon, her family had these values, and she had a daughter, and he spent time with the daughter, like a loving father. They spoke highly of him. He was a totally different person behind closed doors with this family, which he had a relationship with. And she never knew what he was doing once he walked out that door. So that was an interesting case, a part of his life as well, that how he separated his personal life and relationship. When he walked out the door, he was this devious serial killer and just very conniving and very influential when he came up to these women.
Yeah, I mean, he was he was a handsome, charismatic man, and he really, played that up. He played that up to women, and would almost poise to be someone who would be wearing like an arm sling or look like he was someone that was hurt. You know what I mean? To whether it be to gain sympathy. Or he'd even pose as somewhat of an authority figure as well, Angel, to a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
That's another thing that we need to look at, where we're sort of saying, when we're looking at this incident, is when you put yourself as like a power of authority over someone, and being someone who is so charismatic, someone who is an attractive male, someone who probably didn't fit the mold when you think psycho serial killer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, like I said, the guy was a very intellectual, very handsome, very charismatic. People just like he lit up not saying lit up the room, but caught people's attention when he spoke. He kept them intrigued. He kept them like engaged. So that's why it kind of like, it was not the typical serial killer, like, oh, with the black cloak and the hood, looking all like just disheveled and dark. He had that was his mask. That's how he was able to keep people's guard down and not suspect them.
Yeah, man. And sorry if I just adjust my camera real quick.
No, I'm fixing my glasses.
But looking at how he would first begin to pry on women. I mentioned that he would often position himself and poise himself, however you want to say it, with his arm in a sling, and looking for them to help by putting something in his car. And a majority of the time where he'd meet these women would be in very public places.
He drove a Volkswagen Bug. It was I forgot the color. We call it a Bug here, the Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that was his vehicle. that and also, the funny thing about the sling situation is that they used it in the movie Silence of the Lambs with the character, I want to say Buffalo Bill or Wild Bill. That's where they got the idea for that movie, and that's where they get a lot of ideas for certain serial killer or horror movies, is from actual real life murderers. Just food for
Dude,
thought.
this guy, as you said, 30 confessed murders, 20 confirmed murders. One of his youngest. Actually, no, I don't want to sort of skip too far ahead there.
Yeah.
One of the things I found, which was really strange, was that when he would attack his victims and he'd sexually
Assault them.
And then also keeping their bodies in the woods in certain areas, and would later return to perform sexual acts on them, until their bodies starting to decompose, or animals in the woods started to make them
just
pick away.
Nibble on them. Yeah, pick away
Yeah,
at them,
yeah,
nibble
yeah.
at them.
And at least 12 women he decapitated, which is, dude, that's like the level of that level of psychoness, that level of craziness for an individual to go down that road is fucking insane, dude. Like it's very chilling. When I was looking into this, I watched the movie that's on Netflix. I watched a couple of different documentaries on him. And, one of the things I found, interesting is that all of his victims were very young. Like there was no one really over the age of 26.
Because they were college students. They were all college students, basically.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but majority of them.
But like he went through that thing of, like there was even children involved. There was young teenagers. There was women that survived these attacks as well. Whether they got away or what the specifics are. But, this is a guy and who, like I said, I want to talk about his last murder, because this one really, this is just completely rough. It was a 12-year-old girl.
Oh yeah, in Florida, right?
Yeah, I believe so. And
it was in Florida. Yeah, sorry.
His youngest. This was one of his youngest victims, and she disappeared in the middle of a school day, which is just, dude, this guy was something else, man. Like, you see with people like this and their mentality, it's almost like they want to one up themselves to a certain thing. They want to try and, see what they can get away with, see how they can, do certain things to be able to put themselves so close to the edge that they get caught, but then being able to sort of skirt back. But he was first arrested in 1975 in Utah for aggravated kidnapping and attempted criminal assault. After that arrest, he then became, suspect number one in prior homicide investigations for a long list of unsolved homicides.
Okay.
Like what are your overall thoughts here? Like, why women? Why would he?
Okay.
Do you think that he had some sort of, in his mind, or like, did he suffer some sort of, abuse from a female member in his life as a child? How do you think that this person goes from wanting to hurt innocent women?
Well, first of all, you got to look at it from a perspective at the time when he was born. Now, Ted Bundy, was born, in 1946 out of wedlock, which was something that was not accepted. And his mom, which I think he didn't know his father of course, but he was, was born out of wedlock, which again, his mother was he was raised by his paternal grandparents, which again, and his mother was pretending to be his sister. You
So
know,
young.
yeah, young. So because again, I didn't know what the reason why was it, but again, during that time, it was frowned upon to have a child without being married, or so on and so
Sure.
forth. So the story was is that he thought, not he thought, but they think that that's why he resented women at a certain point. That's where it kind of started, because again, he was. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you thought your mother, I mean, if you for years this is my sister, my sister, my sister, my sister, and then finally you find out that this was your mother, there's going to be some type of resentment. Not for everybody, but I'm just thinking like what he might have kicked it
Sure.
off. So I think that's probably what just kind of like, not set him over the edge, but that's where it started, almost like a Jeffrey Dahmer's, because again, one of the things he did when he was a kid is that he used to get like these mice from a pet store, and he'll go into the forest and and then he'll look at them and pick the one that he wanted to kill and then set the other ones free. So because it gave him the type of power of control, and that's almost the same thing. Like, I know it's a different topic, but Jeffrey Dahmer's used to go in the forest and torture animals. Of course it was from squirrels, and then it worked his way up.
But that's what they say. Like with serial killers and murderers, a majority of the time is they start with animals. Like as you said, Jeffrey Dahmer started with mice and then worked his way up to squirrels. It's the same thing. Like we've seen with other serial killers in the past. They have a history. They start with small
but Ted Bundy
animals.
did the mice. I'm just saying that
Ted
Jeffrey
Bundy
Dahmer's
did the
work.
mice.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer's did like, so like small animals. If it was a freaking bird, he worked his way up to a cat, and then he kept going up to bigger and better things.
Dude, it gets wilder and wilder, this story, because Ted Bundy also escaped from jail twice. Once from June 7th, 1997, and then he was then captured in June 13th in 1977. So let's say a week or 6 days. Then he escaped again in December 30th in 1977, and then was captured in February 15th, 1978. Now, we'll go into the prison escapes in a second. I want you to remember that date that he was captured, February 15th, 1978. This after the second escape. His last murder was February 9th in 1978.
Okay.
So when he escaped from prison, he had already done at least one murder during that time.
Mm-hmm.
My question about that, about the escapes, is how could that have happened?
Well, first of all, I'm going to go with the second escape in regards to how he was. He escaped the second time. The second time he escaped, he knew the pattern of the guard, because it was not a secure prison. It was just a small, as far as I know, facility, and he knew the schedule because of the guard, because he left to supposedly see his girlfriend. So he knew what time the guy left and left Ted Bundy alone, and he was able to like get out through the air duct and go through and drop down into the officer's closet. And that's how he was able to escape at that time. Now, when he spoke to his attorney, he did call his attorney, which he left a message. He said, "Hey, I forgot the name of the attorney, but he used to go off as he said, hey, we have a gentleman called Mr. Rosebud on the phone," which Mr. Rosebud was also used as an alias when he tried to stop this girl pretending to be law enforcement. He said he was Detective Rosebud. And then she was one of the girls that escaped when he tried to ask for help. No, he told her that somebody was vandalizing her car. And that's when she walked up to the Volkswagen Bug, got in, and he tried to handcuff her, and she was able to get away and run to the next car. So anyway, not to jump up too far, but so when he spoke to his attorney, he even asked his attorney, what state is, the death penalty is in effect, and he was advised Florida. So then that's when he went to Florida. He ended up there. But the guy, the guy was always calling his attorney, because unfortunately the attorney couldn't say anything because of attorney client attorney privilege, so he couldn't say anything until after the fact of after Ted Bundy died. He was able to release all that information, but legally he couldn't say anything. He would have been disbarred.
Because like that was the thing. Like on the June 7th one, he was transported 40 miles, which is 64 kilometers, from Garfield County Jail in Glenwood Springs to Pitkin County Courthouse in Aspen for a preliminary hearing. He had elected to serve as his own attorney, which you mentioned at the top of the show. As such, it was excused by the judge from wearing handcuffs and leg shackles. During a recess, he asked to visit the courthouse library to research the case. While he was shielded from his guards' view behind a bookcase, he opened a window and jumped to the ground floor from the second story, injuring his right ankle as he landed. Obviously, you're jumping, down at a high distance. There's going to be some sort of impact to the ankle or legs.
Yeah, that even happened with John Wilkes Booth when he killed President Lincoln, and he jumped from the balcony onto the stage and he fucking broke his ankle doing that. But what's funny though about that moment when he was doing the research at the library at the college is that people were like, "What the fuck?" They noticed that he was there, and they made students uncomfortable. And that's when the school was like, "Hey, maybe we could have him go into this a part of the library," because he was making people uncomfortable because there was a lot of young females there. So that's what they did. So that's why I think that was one of his, not say his idea, but gave him the opportunity to escape.
Jesus, man. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy that he was able to get himself in those sort of situations to be able to get out of prison. He definitely seems like someone who was a very intelligent guy. He was studying law, wasn't he? I believe.
He went to college to be to be an attorney, and that's what he was. I don't know what year, like how long he was doing it, but yeah, he was going to school to become an attorney, a lawyer.
One of the craziest things of this, Angel, is that through 1974 to 78, he was in a relationship, as you said, with a woman with a young child, and he was actually going through, like he was going through that sort of, like I said, he was with a partner, he was going through living a normal life, and then when things started to become more become more sort of well known and coming more out there, like she stuck by him for the longest time, bro. Like she stuck by him for the longest time.
Because it's hard. I mean, think about it. Even there was some not tape confessions. There was a taped interview with Ted Bundy. He said he loved this woman. He loved that child as a family. He built a relationship with them. All she saw was one side of that person, and that's hard to separate. Like, yo, this guy can't be a killer or serial killer. When you have this loving, caring, understanding man who's the father figure to her child, took the child to the park, helped her learn how to ride a bike, do all these things that any father would do. And then later on, you find out he's a serial killer. It's hard to determine, like, oh, how do you separate? Like, it can't be, because this is not the person I live with. This is not the person who takes me out to dinner and buys me roses and, spends Thanksgiving holidays with me, So, I mean, I can see it's hard, dude. It's like if, think about it. If your wife was a serial killer, I mean, seriously, your wife's a loving woman, makes the cookies, takes the kids to school, loving. And then all of a sudden you get that phone call, yo, your wife was arrested. And we just found out that she was the murdering on a killing spree for 20 people through the time when you guys were first married all the way to the point when you had your third child. You'd be like, what? No, this can't be her. This is not the woman I live. Yeah, it's very, very fucking hard to break that tie mentally.
And look, the thing is with him was, like he was put on, when he went to trial, the relationship ended with his partner. He also married, I believe, a woman called I'm just trying to remember her name, Carol Ann Boone. You know,
But no,
they married in 1980 and like divorced in 1986. So she married and also was impregnated while he was incarcerated.
okay, I was thinking of the girl he dated before Elizabeth. Sorry.
Yeah, no, he was with her for a number of years. You know, prior to that, and I think she stood by him, man. She stood by him for the longest time.
What, Shaboon?
Until no, well, even his wife, but his first partner that he was saying that he was
Oh,
involved with,
okay,
that he was
yeah.
a father to her child. I believe her name was Elizabeth. Correct? Yes.
Elizabeth Kendall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know, it just goes to show, man, like the people that are in this sort of, you know, this that have these sort of characteristics, they're able to be persuasive. They're able to be people that can, you know, lure other people in and almost become that larger than life personality where they become, um, you know, like almost, you know what I mean, in fixed and sort of not, I don't want to say trapped in their web, but it's almost like they sort of can brainwash them in a certain way, and that's the sort of feeling that you get with the woman that he married. Like she was almost brainwashed by him to a certain degree.
Well, no, but I agree with you. But the thing about it, when the person's institutionalized, you do have your fandom of people out there, from the fucking Charles Mansons to the fucking Jeffrey Dahmers. There are people out there that just love to communicate and fall in love with serial killers. He's so handsome, he's so cute, all this stuff. So the one that you're saying that married him in the 80s, yeah, she already knew what he was. He was a serial killer. It intrigued her. She I don't know what the hell was wrong with what was going on with that lady's mind, but normally that's just those are how those people are. So compared to Elizabeth Kendall, who didn't know shit, she just, like I said, she was there was smoke and mirrors all over Ted Bundy at that time. So
Mm.
she didn't know anything about him, and that's why she was in shock and like had to stick by him, because she couldn't accept the fact that that person that she lived with, not even lived with, spent her life with, was this monster that was running around the United States from college to college to college, killing these young girls.
And you know, I just found, oh, not as I just found, but I found some information where, you know, Kendall describes how she met Bundy. You know, at the time she was a divorced single mother and secretary, struggling with self-esteem issues,
Yeah.
and an increasing dependency on alcohol. You know, and this guy Bundy was a charming University of Washington student. You know, and she had this fantasy about forming a stable household, you know, with this handsome lawyer husband, you know, that captivated her, you know, and you know, even as a frightening murdering spree began in 1974, you know, though she became increasingly suspicious of Bundy, she stayed with him after Salt Lake City resident Carol DeRonch managed to escape from Bundy's clutches after a 1974 assault, and later positively identified Bundy as her attacker. You know, again, like this woman who has said, I had self-esteem issues, I was going through things myself, and he made her feel a certain way. You know what I mean? Even though he was identified as someone who attacked a woman, she still stood by him in that thing because, you know, he had this power over him, and that he had this power over her, I should say. And that's the scary thing. It's like when someone like that has power over another individual, and it's usually an individual, as she said here, that had self-esteem issues, who had, you know, confident, like from what I've seen in this interview and from reading about it as well, she had these confidence issues as well. Oh, well, okay. He's saying he didn't do it. So, like, okay, he didn't do it. This woman's just pointing him out for whatever reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your common sense kind of goes out the window in that.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, absolutely. I mean, like I said, Ted Bundy was very arrogant. And the thing was that the things that he done was like, that don't make any sense. But he was just very arrogant. He even told them their real name. Hey, how you doing? My name is Ted. Two girls disappeared from I forgot, it was a beach type of party. I'm sorry, I can't remember where, but they disappeared. They even told one of the girls, "Hey, how you doing? No, what's your name? So and so. My name is Ted." You know, and that's what the police said, because the witness that was there even said that's what he said his name was Ted. That's arrogance, bro. You know, when you just throw out your real name.
Bro, it is. And that's what it goes back to before. It becomes like this egotistical, the ego kicks in for people that are like this. The psychoticness, that their mind is like, you know what? How close can I get? How close can I get to being caught here? Yeah, I'm going to use my real name, Ted. It's not a unique name. It's a, and during that time frame, there was a lot of Teds.
Yeah.
Like that was a very popular name for many years and many decades, and especially around that time, I think the 70s, like there was a lot of Teds going around. The thing is, it gets me that he would sometimes, as I said earlier, sometimes visit his victims' bodies and perform sexual acts with the deceased bodies.
Mm-hmm.
That is like, dude, like, does that come as a power thing as well, do you think? Like, yeah, there's nothing you can do. You're dead now. I killed you and I'm going to do this to you. Like, does it become a power play, bro? Or is it just someone who gets off on, committing sexual acts on a dead carcass?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just a control thing. And sorry, I was just looking up the lake thing because it was killing me. But yeah, it's a control thing. It just shows that he could do whatever he wants. Just like the mice thing. He picked his mice and he let the other ones free. He has control. But not to go back and forth, the two individuals that were kidnapped from the Lake Samadish State Park was on July 14th, 1974. Denise Naslund, if I'm pronouncing it correct, and Janice Ott. Those two individuals were the ones that disappeared on the same day. And one was 18, one was 23. And this was in 1974 in July. So they found one body 2 months later. And then, and of course, her body was found in the same location in, I can't even pronounce the word, Asakwash. I know I'm going to get butchered by the fans about that, but yeah. But again, that's how ballsy he was. Took two people the same fucking day. How the fuck do you fit two bodies in a fucking Volkswagen Bug? Unless he fucking took them, killed them, and came back.
Yeah.
There ain't no room for two bodies.
Dude, I actually have the breakdown of the victims, like not the of the numbers here. In Washington, there was 11 victims, including 3 unidentified. In Utah, there was 8 victims, 3 unidentified. Florida, 3 victims, all identified. Oregon, 2, both unidentified. Idaho, 3, 1 unidentified. California, 1 unidentified. Like I said, they were only able to confirm 20 because they were able to find remains, of the body, as well. But like this guy, man, like going on this much of a killing spree, like just, destroying these women, dude. Like his attacks were violent, they were vicious, and these women died bloody.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that was intriguing me about the Florida thing, about the 3 people identified, one was the child, the young girl, and the other 2 were from a college sorority house, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's how they were able to identify, because he didn't kidnap them from their location. He just did it from that dorm room or whatever, or mega house or whatever they call them.
Yeah,
frat house. So
it's just, when you look at this guy and you look at the history of Ted Bundy, he goes down in American history as one of the most violent criminals of all time. Would you agree?
Well, I mean, he is the most violent criminal. It's just that this. I mean, if you put apples and oranges with other serial killers, it's hard to like separate like what makes one person most devious and most dangerous and most vicious killer. Is it the number? Is it the way he killed them? Is it how creative he was when he kidnapped them? I mean, there's a lot of serial killers out there. I mean, look at H. Holmes. He was the first serial killer in the United States documented before, the word serial killer didn't even was used until the early 80s, so like I said, H. Holmes had a hotel that he killed all these people. That's another story in itself. We will definitely address it at that time. But again,
Absolutely.
what makes this guy like the killer of all killers? I really don't know, because I think there's just other guys like, Jesus Christ, was he better than, not better, but like, is his killing spree worse than Ted Bundy's or vice versa? I don't know, but let's just say yes,
Dude,
he was.
Looking at all of these victims, as I said, there's a pattern here: 18, 21, 19, 18, 20, 22, 18, 18, 23, 16, 17, 18, 17, 23, 26, 24, 18, 12, 15. Like, man.
He was going to college. I mean, besides the young girls, he was going to colleges. He was using, at the time during the 70s, not highways were being created, but they were being built, and that was his highway. How he was able to commute between these states, because he was going to all these colleges. These are that's where he was getting his victims from. Not all of them, but the majority of them. So I mean, that's just,
bro. Like, he was like, at the time he was arrested, he was, like, what was he born? 1946, and he was arrested in 1975.
Correct.
So I was trying to think the time when he was. So he was about 29 years of age.
Excuse me, sorry.
When he was arrested.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be a little bit old to be going to uni at the time? Like, especially in the 70s, where it's like, like, how many mature age students would you see back then around a college campus?
Well, I mean, he could have been a professor. He could have pretended to have been a professor. He could have been a speaker at the time. And again, he was not hitting on him. He was asking for help, doing the broken arm gimmick. Hey, can you help me get into my car? And he was just picking his victims.
No, but he was also, because he was a student at the time. That's what I'm saying.
I can't remember. I mean, it's just if he was a student, there's nothing. I mean, back in the 70s and back in those time frames, I don't see nothing. Again, I really don't know the dynamics of what age people were going to. I mean, now you can do it at 80 or whatever, but at the time, I don't think. I really don't know if that's what's looked on like, hey, you're too old to be going to college. You're supposed to be 18, 23 or whatever. I don't know the numbers at the time for that.
So, he was sentenced, in February 10th, 1980, he was sentenced for a third time to death by electrocution. As the sentence was announced, he reportedly stood and shouted, "Tell the jury they're wrong." The third death sentence would be the one ultimately carried out nearly 9 years later. So,
but the fucked up part is that this is how arrogant he was. His attorney was trying to get to not get him the death penalty, basically to put him in an insane asylum to say that he was mentally unstable. And again, he fucked that up. I mean, there was a lot of things that he was going to get away with, that his attorney was really good at what he did. But since Ted Bundy was like, I'm going to do it, I want to be cross-examined. He was just fucking shit up, and he was contradicting himself and all that stuff. And I mean, when he first got caught, he had like license plates in the trunk. He had a nice pick. He had a fucking a pair of pantyhose with fucking eyelets in it. So that, because he was parked in front of a house that the police knew that the people were on vacation. So when he got stopped, he was just saying, "Oh, I'm just lost." But it was like 3-something in the morning. And that's when they I don't know what the reason they gave him the probable cause to search his vehicle. But again, at the time, it's just weird how back then they were able to do whatever they want. And then now it's hard to like, hey, you can't, you have to have a reason to detain me. Oh, you're suspicious. Suspicion is not enough to search a person's vehicle. So if this would have happened now, it would have been a lot of things would have probably been thrown out.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stuff that was found in his car. Ski mask. It looks like there's also flashlight, handcuffs, rope,
Hmm.
gloves. You know, and a couple of other clothing items as well that I can see. Like it looks like torn pantyhose here that of the
Yeah,
picture that I'm looking at.
yeah, it's torn pantyhose, but with like like he used it to as a mask as well. That's as far as I've read.
Yeah, so you know, this is a guy as well. Like at the time, really, you tried to use the media to get himself as someone who is, a less, you know what I mean? Like he tried to use that, saying I'm being wrongfully accused and all this sort of stuff, but you know, he was a very smart, very calculated individual. You know what I mean? Like, even his presence, the judge stating, young man, given these circumstances, I would have loved for you to be
Yeah,
practicing law inside this courtroom. However, you have done some very heinous, unforgivable, bloody murders that, you know what I mean? Like, if you had put your energy into becoming this lawyer and instead of going down this road, and like I said, mental health with this guy, clearly he was never of sound mind. Very, like, this is someone who psychotic, schizophrenia as well. That has to come into play, especially when you know what I mean, to be able to be this calculated, but to be able to be this calm and to be able to sit there and lie to someone and face to face going, didn't do it.
but it's funny though. Okay, when he got stopped, let's just go back, and it's just funny how, like I said, I'm just gonna elaborate a little bit. When he got stopped at night at 3 in the morning, and they searched his car, they identified who he was, and arrested him. Right, compared to now, if you were parked in front of a house and just sat there, and somebody looked out the window and called the police, hey, there's a guy looking suspicious, and they came and said, sir, we just got a call in regards about you sitting in your vehicle. Okay, is there a reason why you want to? Are you sitting here? None of your business. So just sitting here. Can I get some ID? No. For what? You have to. There has to be a crime. Are you being detained? Or there has to be suspicion. Is not a crime. There's not enough meat on the bone for them to do
Yeah.
anything. So it's just weird how back in those days you could do those things, but if it was flipped around and you put it to this era, yeah, I think you would have still been going, driving around killing people, because again, you can't detain somebody just by suspicion alone. You have to have probable cause. You have to have an act of a crime. And then you don't have to identify yourself or answer any questions if there is not, if you have suspicions of a crime. There is no suspicion of a crime besides just sitting in front of a house and just looking at it. That's not a crime.
One of the things as well in 1984, Rayford guards found 2 hacksaw blades hidden in Bundy's cell. A steel bar in one of the cell's windows had been sawed completely through at the top and bottom and glued back into place with a homemade soap-based adhesive. Several months later, guards found an unauthorized mirror and Bundy was again moved to a different cell. Shortly thereafter, he was charged with a disciplinary infraction for unauthorized correspondence with another high-profile criminal, John
John
Hinckley
Hinckley.
Jr.
John Hinckley Jr. John Hinckley Jr. was the vigilante in New York City that just shot like. He was not really a serial killer. He was just, who he fucking was? Charles Bronson from Death Wish. He was blasted. I remember, I was young. He was killing like people like, hey man, give me your wallet. Hey, stay away from me. Or what are you gonna do? Boom, boom, boom. He was killing people that were just, I can't say criminals, but you know what I'm saying, like people that were assaulting people and stuff like that. So John Hinckley Jr. No, John Hinckley Jr. Sorry, that's not. John Hinckley was the one who killed John Lennon. Sorry. Wrong
Yeah.
serial killer.
Yeah. So, but also, Bundy contacted Robert Keppel. So Robert Keppel was an American law enforcement officer, detective. He was also an associate professor at the University of New Haven, and was known for his contributions to the investigations of the Ted Bundy and Gary Ridgway. So he contacted and offered to share his self-proclaimed expertise in serial killer psychology to Robert Keppel in the ongoing hunt in Washington for the Green River Killer, which was later identified as Gary Ridgway. Keppel and Green, the Ridge Task Force detective Dave Rickard interviewed Bundy, but Ridgway remained at large for a further 17 years. Why would Bundy try and go in that road? Like, why would he go down there to try and find another serial killer?
I don't know, to pick his brain. I don't know. I really, again, you don't know what goes around in a serial killer's mind. I mean, again, again, maybe get pointers. I really don't know. That's something that's something they should have asked him at the time. And I wanted to apologize to the fans. The person that I was thinking of is Bernhard Goetz. He was a vigilante in New York City. He killed 4 Black people in New York City in 1984 because they tried to rob him, and he shot 4 of them. So that's why that popped in my head when you said John Hinckley Jr. I don't know why. But anyway, hey, look, man, I mean, I think this could be a second part, but we're at that minute mark, man. You're on mute.
We are at that 1 minute mark. We do want to make sure that we cover all this. I think that there's a lot of meat that's still left on the bone. I think that we will have to revisit this and cover this off, a bit further. But
the only problem with this, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The only problem of us doing these type of investigations on this, besides wrestling, is because there's so much meat on it that it can't be just a one-parter. Those are the only hard parts.
I think as well we need to really look at doing multiple parts, because I think with the Ted Bundy one as well, I would like to go into more of like his confessions, and that's something that I would like to sort of investigate further. But I think we should do a part 2 next week, man. I think that if you're down for it, and
let's continue with this.
Let's do it. Yeah. So, guys, again, we are the Russo's Brand Crack Investigation Unit. We are Wrestling with Tragedy. You want to make sure you want to let me get there, bitch. If you want to get an exclusive first look at all our case numbers, guys, you need to head over to russosbrand.com, become a subscriber, or head over to patreon.com/russotwc and subscribe over there. Get an exclusive first look at all our episodes. You can also go to YouTube and also all of your podcast platforms, and you can find every single one of all of our past episodes on those platforms, guys. So make sure you check them out. Huge shout out to our sponsors, thathealthvape.com, your healthy vaping alternative. No nicotine, no harmful or addictive chemicals, and they are vitamin infused, guys. So do yourself a favor. Head over to healthvape.com. Use promo code MWAPOD and get a 10% discount on your final purchase, and it's that simple. Also, guys, if you are an athlete or someone you know is an athlete, head over to sleefs.com. That's SLEEFS, sleefs.com. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression socks, headbands, mouth guards, knee guards, boots, whatever you need, they got you covered. And they also have dirty boxes. So, guys, make sure you go and check out sleeves.com. Use promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase, baby.
I believe you, man. And you definitely benefit on those knee guards. But anyway. But hey, man, this is, again, the Wrestling with Tragedy episode, really case number 74. We really appreciate you checking us out. Again, we'll do a part 2 on the Ted Bundy thing. We probably have to reevaluate our format in regards to these serial killers, because it's too much meat to just do one episode. So, good.
Hell yeah. I couldn't say it any better. Angel.
Yeah, Stevie Wonder, little Stevie Wonder gimmick. Hell yeah, baby.
I just called to say, fuck you, Angel.
All right, fellas. Hey, see you next week. Thanks again for watching Wrestling with Tragedy. Peace, love. We're out. Peace.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.